Hello everybody and welcome to a different kind of video, admittedly.
Yep.
So today we're going to be talking about something different. As you can probably see from the map, we're going to be going through a bunch of different stuff. This is going to be episode -1, hopefully, of a podcast we're going to make based around our sci-fi races, because of course we made them, because I'm crazy. Please
Of
ignore
course,
the fact that I've actually been working on them for a total of like 3 years now. That's probably
yes.
fine.
First of all, before we continue and say anything about the galaxy, we should probably ask them one question, and that is, what can you infer from this map alone?
Yes, what can you infer from this map alone? Pause the video right now and punch it
Because
into
we're
the
going to move on.
comments. Continuing. So basically, brief rundown of everything. We have the Celian Dominion right here. They're my race. You have the Volca Siok system, Siok system over here. You have the Generis Union, the Zukin, the Rukin, which was unintentionally similar,
Yep.
and then Kepler and Sol. So, basically, first we'll start out with the Dominion, because I know them like the back of my hand, because I made them. The Dominion are space fascists, I guess.
Yep, pretty much.
I don't have anything better to put them. They're very experimental. Like, they take parts of civilian populations and experiment on them. Yes, they're intended to be very cruel. No, I don't think that is right. Pretty used to taking casualties, and they indoctrinate their own civilian population to make sure no one tries to do anything dumb. Primary method of dealing with crime is execution. It is technically separated into two political entities, being the DPB, the Dominion Protectorate Bloc, because Celia itself is their main 5 planets, mostly biological Celians. What were you going to say, Order?
I thought you were done, so I was going to explain my system, my groups.
Not quite. But the Celians are aggressive. The Dominion is not very friendly, generally kind of xenophobic. And they are the newest to the galactic stage, despite having the fourth largest empire. Yep, go right ahead, Order.
Okay, so I have a bunch of factions right now, but I helped and probably did create. So we have Volcaria. They are my basically space fox people. They live on a volcanic planet, and there's a lot of stuff I can't recall about them, but they do great with lasers, but not much else, kind of.
Yep.
And we have Seok, which are basically just space ice elves. So that's fun.
Yeah, they control ice.
Because their blood has frozen over. No, don't ask. We have
Yeah,
the
I
arch.
was gonna say, don't question it. It's probably fine.
We have the
Also,
dead
because there's
zone.
Sol on this map, this is absolutely the Milky Way. Ignore the fact
Yep.
that it says direct center and it's off-sided pretty far to the left. Please ignore that.
Then we have the Zukin. They are basically space quarantine.
Yeah. There are a group of robots made by something that I should probably explain now. Super important. The Archites up here, as it says, they don't exist anymore. They are the generic ancient alien race that did a bunch of stuff and then somehow collapsed. It's a cliche, I
They
know.
they killed themselves off from something over here in the dead zone,
Yeah.
which we will cover we will cover the main thing that they were using it for, though, at the end,
Yes.
because I
Um.
think that'll be a nice shock.
Yeah. So, rundown of the Archites. I control the Rukin and the Dominion. The Rukin are um,
Space
insectoids on a
insects.
very much like diseased kind of planet. It's very polluted, very gross, very poisonous to anyone but them. And on that note, Celia and the Rukin are rivals, direct ones.
just like Volcarians and Seokin.
Yep. They're both brawling over two things. One is the right to call themselves the successors of the Archites, because they both can expertly decipher most Archite stuff. Celians made their ships have armor and shields and advanced their society with them. Rukins made weapons and war machines with it. And they're brawling over that title and all the blueprints and stuff.
Volcaria and Seok aren't technically rivals yet. They will be, because Seokin are morally good, and they're also mildly annoyed at each other because people call the system different things. Some people will call it the Volca system or the Seok system.
Yeah.
We also have the Shattered Zones, the Quarantine Zone, the Kepler system, all of this random stuff.
Yes. There are the Genericists, which their core concept is that they're ex-refugees from a bunch of Celian invasions. That's how they got their space. They invaded planets. That empire is made, one, they're democratic. The only democratic one that's currently on the map at that point. Ionia and Ralkia in the corner I'll explain in a minute. The Genericists, very democratic, very hostile towards the Dominion, and they hold the most territory out of the newer factions. They are also contenders.
Yeah. Then we also have the Colex Trade Conglomerate.
Yes.
They're trade people, and it used to be Elite Colex, like D0L3X.
Yeah.
I really dislike that, so I spelled it correctly.
Totally reasonable. I was indifferent to it either way. There are a few things here and there, like the Shattered Zones, that are more minor. The Shattered Zones are when the Archites tried to terraform planets. They proceeded to accidentally blow a lot of them up. They did this accidentally because Celia is a dwarf planet. That's not the part they terraformed. Originally, it was a very lush, mostly ocean world with islands dotted about, and mostly sea animals. And they decided to run an experiment. They put machines in the atmosphere to make it colder, a lot colder, and they essentially just turned it into an ice planet. It's now just covered in these thick sheets of ice that are basically impossible to drill down to without proper equipment, which of course Celia has. They were emboldened by what they did with Celia and tried to do it on their own home planets. It went terribly, and that's why the Shattered Zones exist.
We also have the Quarantine Zone, which is more of a temporary area because a virus broke out in that specific area, and Zukin quarantined it.
Yes.
No one can enter or leave.
So, since we're still on this map, I'm going to discuss the final thing that is very important for the future of this potential podcast series potential. And they are the biggest threat. If you think of, if you're aware of Stellaris and how the Endgame Crisis works, basically what they are. They're from another galaxy, and they are intent on taking over this one as well.
Yeah.
The Archites fought them back to their own galaxy and won, but recently the Ionians got through the Zukin in there, and they managed to get into this galaxy, not realizing that the Archites don't exist anymore, and now it's just the Zukins. And that is what the Galactic Gate is for over there.
Yeah. Then, of course, we also forgot to explain the Archaea system. It's a single planetary system that is basically just the Archite's main home planet.
Yes. And that is all
It's
for this one.
Yep. The next one doesn't have much else interesting. It's got the Archite Omega Archive and the
Yes.
Celian War Zones.
Celian War Zones are between these three. Excuse me. These three ones. Which is why it's in a really awkward spot, because the Rukin and the other guys don't get along very well. Okay, and then moving on to the Age of the Archites.
We don't know anything about the dates. However, we do know that the Archites appear. A war started. They created the ZQU to help them win the war, and this allows them to win. They then quarantine the Ionians, or around the same time period, and then they kill themselves off, like the idiots they are.
Yes, emboldened by Celia's creation, they did at Otherworlds. Later, they died off to having no planet to call home. This was after the others collapsed. Well, not after. I need to change that a little. Then Archite Destruction and Mistake Creation. We'll talk about the Mistake in a minute.
Yep.
Age of Evolution.
This is all we know right now.
Yeah, we don't have a lot. This is between the Archites and ours, essentially.
Yeah. Humanity first appears in the Sol system.
Yes. Could still kind of the Milky Way.
Yeah. We have the Ionia and Valken timeline, which I kind of dislike because it's way too early.
It's probably fine. They're primordial, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
This one isn't super fleshed out, so take this one with a grain of salt.
Yeah, it'll probably change.
And the Volcarian history.
2012 CE, 99 Beta lands on Volcaria and survives on rations. There's research groups. There's 99 Alpha, Beta, and Gamma.
Yep.
Alpha and Gamma died. They assumed that Beta also died here, but they didn't.
They actually thrived, so hey.
They run on rations for a bunch of years, like 22 maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, 22.
They run out. They have to go out and scavenge. During this time, they start evolving to become the fox people.
No, don't ask why they're fox people.
It's very scientific. I can explain it all to you, but I'm not going to. 2145 CE, first Volcarian settlement. We have 2689 CE, current leader comes into power.
That one's weird.
The reason he's the current leader is because he fears death and creates a machine to halt aging.
Yeah.
He's also basically always cloaked, and uses hypnotism to basically always stay in power. And then at 2970 CE, you are here! Congratulations, you made it.
Yep, and then onto the Celian history. These are kind of the more detailed ones. Celians are very recent, and first, Celian settlers land. Okay. Earth gets greedy. This is the start of a rocky relationship. The Extinction War. Why is it called the Extinction War? This was due to the fact they almost made, well, Earth humanity, I guess, go extinct. Age of Recuperation. They were recuperating. In this era as well, they started to do something, and that was genetic engineering on their own population. Celia is such an incredibly cold planet that it made human settlements incredibly hard to deal with. And they couldn't do it in the same way you could think of, so they had to find ways on their own to modify themselves to better adapt. In the process, they messed with a couple of their organs. A couple dumb things happened. They're now really pale. And they're also like 6'4" to 9'2".
Oh yeah, Volcarians are also really, really short.
Didn't you say like they're usually over 3 feet tall or something?
Yeah,
The
they're still
Ionians
really short.
are about 5 feet tall, from what Dizzy says, because that's what his faction is. Finding
They're still
archaic
really
ruins on
short.
Celia. This
This is
was.
important.
This is a super important event. They are known for being so incredibly advanced. Their ships, cruisers called pack hunters, due to them always fighting in groups, are based off a lot of this technology. Namely, the armor plating, which is almost organic looking. It's very rounded, fairly smooth as well. Their shields are definitely Archaite design and are able to flex. They can get as close to the hull as, like, basically skin tight, I guess, or as far as a large bubble, spanning quadruple their size. During the age of recuperation and finding the Archaite ruins, they started doing their own thing. The way they found the Archaite ruins was because of the temperature of Celia, they couldn't make normal settlements. If you think of like these little tents and stuff, that's not how Celian society looked at all. Celian cities, they're fairly small. Biologically, Celian population across the entire Dominion is only 750,000. They're not common at all. They're far less common than literally every other species under their control. And they just had to drill and drill and drill. And their cities sit on platforms that are raised above by stilt-like legs. The legs supply water because they go directly into the actually warmer parts of the ocean. They go through the ice, and then the warmer parts of the ocean are like straight up volcanic, so they use those to gather energy, water, and oxygen as well. So they have a good source for all of that. That is a very, very important part. Their cities are also they're also fully enclosed. And since about the age of recuperation as well, I apologize, Order.
It's fine.
Throughout that, they also figured out Araxinium. Araxis is another one of the planet's generic sci-fi name. It's technically a placeholder, but I still can't think of anything else. So it's Araxis for now.
Got used to Araxis.
Fair. It's probably going to say Araxis. Araxinium and Celium. Celium is pretty odd. To work it, you need to keep it at an incredibly, incredibly low temperature, like liquid nitrogen kind of temperature, which is not very far below what Celia normally sits at, which most Celians can deal with little more than a thick coat. But they need to keep it really, really cold to work with. And that, along with Araxinium. Araxinium is actually, you need lava or magma to work with it or to forge it. It needs to get just that hot in order to work properly.
So, Theok and Volcaria are probably warm enough that they could, deal with that.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I mean, Araxis is not a cold planet. It's fairly temperate. It's closer to Earth. It's a little warmer than normal, but not by much. Araxis is pretty generic, and Araxinium and Celium combined make the most important metal for Celians, which is hard glass. That is... The reason it's called that is because it is partially clear. You can look through it, it's just not super obvious. Although, that being said, no, the ships The ships and equipment used is not all clear because the armor plating is always really thick for one reason or another. And if you add more than like 3 or 4 millimeters of it, it's not clear anymore. It does have a weird shimmering effect though by that point. But that's not the point. Hard glass though is super important. It's what the Celians build basically everything out of. And on that note, throughout their entire history, they are just excellent engineers. All their stuff took a lot of engineering. You have stuff like their forges as well, which, basic rundown, those forges run about 4,000 Kelvin, incredibly, incredibly hot so they can work with it, and then they blast liquid nitrogen onto the metal to shape it. A pack hunter always starts out as a thick, usually about 2 feet thick, like, not 2 feet thick, a meter thick. I don't know what I was thinking. I use the metric system most of the time. I was thinking about something else. I don't know what that was. God, it sounds like I'm trying to make an excuse. That was not the intent. Whatever, it's not the point. Anyway, not gonna get sidetracked. Really, really thick metal plate, and they don't really cut it much. Because of Archite technology, it's almost organic looking. Partially because of the way they fold it. They don't cut the metal. Other metal in the ship they do cut, but that's not the point. Anyway.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Flint Trance.
Anyway, Archite ruins. They gave them a bunch of blueprints, allowing them to research more advanced technology than basically every other faction, except the Rukin, but they're not really aware of the Rukin right now. They don't know exactly who they are and their capabilities. They're aware they exist. The Age of Expansion, this is when they got their empire, really. This is where they got their empire started. It is very, very important for them, because without it, they only have a population of 750,000. With the rest of the Minion, they have about 13 billion. Not a lot in comparison to some of the other empires. Dangerous research. During their early years, Celians experimenting with Archite tech had a tendency for it literally to blow up in their face. A lot of Celians died from that.
Very smart.
I mean, Celians have always seen themselves as expendable, though. Only one that doesn't and isn't considered is the Empress, which you get to once you get to Age of Successors. That's really minor, but I think it needs some explanation. Age of Conquest. Yes, it is different from the Age of Expansion. Age of Conquest was essentially cracking down on crime and making the rest of the Dominion more stable and conquering what unrest there was, as well as a few more planets. That's not really the point. And finally, 2970 CE.
You are here.
Age of the Successors. That's where they are. And yeah, it's a different kind of war of succession, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And then Archite Power Storage Explosion Map.
Yeah.
So, this is what we were talking about in the first slide as well. Can I? No, I can't use the number buttons. This is terrifying. Or do you explain it?
Okay, so a while ago, how the Archites started killing themselves off in the outer edge, which is basically most of the universe, of the galaxy. They killed themselves off by making a Dyson sphere. And it created these Ravagers that have been destroying the entire galaxy for a while. That's what created the dead zone. But you see, the only good thing that comes from the Arcite power storage exploding, which is what they're using to store the Arcite, the Dyson Sphere energy, uh, the only good thing that comes from it is destroying the entire dead zone. However, this will also kill everything here.
Everything in evaporation range will be wiped out. Extinction range, the surface of planets and space stations and ships will be wiped out, but the planets will be okay-ish.
And the affected range gets less severe the further out it gets. But people are going to go deaf in a lot of these parts.
Yeah.
This is terrifying.
It is, and on that note, I made a joke before this that I feel like is important. It's a joke about in space no one can hear you scream. It's in space. It's so loud you can hear it in space. The second space was redundant.
I know.
Oh, wonderful. Don't.
However, this of course won't happen because science forbids it. However, if you are in the affected range currently on a planet, you will hear it.
Yeah.
People at the edge of the extinction range will hear it, then die.
An affected range will hurt a lot, but you might be okay.
A huge might. However, the entire galaxy will feel it. And
Probably
maybe
other
more
galaxies
galaxies.
too. That is just. Alternatively, with the Dyson Sphere. Well, first I should probably explain the Ionians a little better. The Ionians are the crisis of the galaxy. Or could be, more accurately, I guess. They are not friendly. At all. They are the most hostile race that any of these factions have ever met. Even Celia is not nearly as aggressive as these guys. They broke through what Arcite defenses they had around their own galaxy. A large shield network, as well as a lot of ships and drones and what have you. Bunch of Arcite stuff. They blasted through that. That little arrow in the middle of the brownish area, that's the gate. That's where they're going to pop out when they invade. The thing is that their fleets are incredibly powerful. Here, I'm going to go back to the first one.
Yeah.
It is incredibly, incredibly powerful. So, basically, we did kind of process it for a while. We got the Zukin. They'd definitely be sending out a message, because they probably have a catalog of a bunch of different languages that we're not going to discuss today. They have a different catalog of a ton of different languages that go through them. And then we had a realization of, oh crap, they're still sending a signal or a physical being, one of the two. It's going to take time. So we just kind of thought it out, and we had the realization. First, it'll hit the Generasis Union. Second, the Sol System. Third, first the Sol System. Second, the Generasis. Third, the Colex. Fourth, the Kepler system humans, which are essentially Earth humans reformed. And then it'll finally hit the Volcarians and Rukin.
And Dominion Space, you forgot
Dominion Space. Dominion Space is going to be in the middle of that. They're probably going to be hit just after Kepler gets hit with the signal. And they are incredibly, incredibly dangerous. Let me pull this up. I need to check. Their basic fleet template, which we all worked on to get a brief rundown. Fair, but you still agreed to it. In the very beginning, their early fleet composition could be one command ship, 4 to 7 capital ships and 20 to 30 regular, or 1 capital ship, 2 to 5 regular ships, or capital ships, and 30 to 50 regular ships. And then third, 1 command, 9 to 12 capital ships, and less than 20 regular ships. That is just the beginning invasion. They are a massive, massive threat to the galaxy. On that note, me and Order here, we're brainstorming. Chances are, but the way this is going to work out, Celians might be able, with the help of most of the other factions, especially the Vulcarians, because they have Drisa, which is a planet with a lot of archives, which is where the Dominion got all their archite technologies archives under their main city, that they might go to that archite mistake, the Dyson Sphere, and turn it into a super weapon. The Dyson Sphere has been sitting there for possibly 1 billion years or something.
Or more than that.
Yeah. Just, it's going to have a ton of power stored in it. We're going to be able to do more than one shot consistently. And that really gives us 2, late options to the podcast. Hopefully we'll get some guests on as well to represent the other factions. But a council meeting, if this alliance, this galactic alliance, the Milky Way alliance, I don't know what to call it, ends up getting mostly defeated and they only have a few ships left, the plan is to go to that archite mistake and blow half the galaxy up.
About half the galaxy.
Or more like 2/3 of the galaxy. But a lot of the galaxy. Not something they want. Or if they can pool enough resources together, just make it into a super weapon. And so, guys... Oh, what we're saying?
I was going to say we'd be able to raid so many other galaxies.
We could! I mean, especially if the Alliance keeps ship shape. Oh, something I forgot to mention. All of these factions are probably going to have completely different fleet doctrine, and Celia and Vulcaria alone are very, very powerful and cover each other's weaknesses, not to mention the other ones. So the Ionians are going to have basic ship design, but it's all going to be super varied on the side of the Chocolate Bar Alliance. Blame Order for the joke.
Yeah, blame me.
Although, guys, I am being serious. He made that joke.
I did. I completely did. I'm proud of that joke.
Oh, it was hilarious once you messaged me back and it clicked. Anyway, guys, there you go. There's a brief overview of what hopefully will become our podcast. Recruiting for that podcast is going to be a pain in the butt. Anyway, good luck, guys. Have a good rest of your day. Bye.